Hello, and welcome to the UW Demonstration Sites Inclusionary Practices Spotlight. Today, I'll be sharing an update on the principles and practices to build and sustain inclusive schools, or the P&P tool. A little bit of background to the creation of the tool is initially with a partnership with Demonstration Sites, as visitors were coming into sites and we are having discussions around what are inclusionary practices and what our look for is when visiting sites. We really took that information and what we were learning from our demonstration sites and through those visits and put together the principles and practices tool, which contains 7 principles you'll see here on the right, which include inclusive mission and vision, inclusive building schedule, collaborative structures, inclusive instructional practices, flexible service delivery, inclusive IEPs, and family and community engagement. And for each of those 7 principles are 10 or fewer supporting practices. So that's a little bit about what is in it in the P&P tool. As we think about also the framework or the lens that we took in developing the tool is really based on an appreciative inquiry, or this transformational change model. We break that down, like what is to appreciate that something when we value and recognize strengths and when we recognize successes. And for the inquiry part, that we begin to explore and discover and ask some questions. So appreciative inquiry, or AI, is one inquiry-based measure that draws upon action-based research and organizational development methods to integrate philosophy, theory, practice, and research in an intentional effort to reduce transitional gaps between each of these things. So really, we're really framing this in a strengths-based appreciative inquiry framework. And why is this helpful? Is that we know when we focus on strengths rather than barriers and deficit, that can lead to more productive outcomes in framing our work. And then we also recognize the strengths and can leverage that within systems for foundations of change. And as individual schools may come and visit, or our demonstration sites use this tool, they can be able to recognize what is working well within systems and build on those changes. A little bit more on AI, as we think of it as the 5D model, which really looks at dreaming and then defining, discovering, dream, design, and then that destiny. So we're really looking at that topic of inquiry and then mapping that out, what that would look like, and then make changes as needed. And on the bottom right is a QR code if you'd like to learn a little bit more about appreciative inquiry from the Center for Appreciative Inquiry. Okay, so we have that for our tool, 0 to 7 principles based on the framework of appreciative inquiry. We know that it adopts a critical lens, that it's going to support an ongoing reflection and action planning, that it's grounded in appreciative inquiry, and that we have these cycles of inquiry where supportive of ongoing reflections towards inclusive transformation. Why are they important? What we've found first and foremost is the P&P tool is a useful way to understand and talk about inclusionary practices, which again can mean different things to different people over time. And the inclusionary practices are extensive and should be a through line across all systems of education to impact teaching and learning, leadership, family, and community engagement. And I'll say, since the onset of developing this in about 2020, we recognized early on that it had perhaps a very special ed focus to this tool. And so over time, we've further defined and the items on the tool are a little bit more robust. Okay, so here, let's just take a closer look at the tool. I'll be moving from left to right. On the left there just gives a little information about the tool and how to use it. We recommend, in our demonstration sites, do this in the fall to get a baseline and help with action planning, and they do it again in the spring to give some information. That middle panel, or that page there, shows the different inclusive practices, and people can hyperlink and jump to each section. And then what you see on the far right there is the self-assessment form. And there's one page for each of the 7 practices where teams can go through and note if items are in place, in progress, or not in place yet. Okay. So you get all this information, you either do it as a leadership team, grade level bands, there's different ways to approach this, but when how you make this information meaningful, on the left there, you can see, you can start to total up those items, and it'll say, for example, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, and that can give an indicator of where you are. What we found useful is that center part there, that practices grid that can offer everybody just at a glance. They can check in the boxes their priority areas. And then the last part on the far right really moves you into that action planning. So again, the summary tool, and the summary tool helps you get a screenshot of where you're at, where you would like to go to help to prioritize and move into action planning. I'll also note that there are bold items on the P&P tool, and they're also reflected in the shaded areas and the practices grid above. And those are when we're not sure where to start, we recommend with just starting with those bold areas to be able to prioritize. So with that, I'd like to share here a case study, an example of how our P&P tool is used with demonstration sites. You'll see here, this takes us through fall 2023 and spring 2024, and then again, fall 2024. And when we have the data set for spring 2025, we'll add that too. What you're noticing is across the bottom represent the 7 different principles. And then for each time period, blue represents practices that are in place, yellow in process, and red not in place. So that can give some indicators where we'd like to look at in terms of action planning and where to go. Okay, some important things to remember. Again, gosh, not sure where to start. Sometimes the systems change. Don't want to take on all the things like all in once, but so we've identified the bold items as high leverage items that you can begin to look at. And again, take that strength-based inquiry, look at where the strengths are within your building and be able to build on that. So for example, if you have a really strong department team or grade level band, maybe that's where they begin some of this work your leadership team takes on. So again, different ways to approach that. Here's some more, as we can share some more flexible uses of the tool that we've seen in practices. On a district level, our inclusion coaches in one school district use a tool with building leaders as they were building some more scale in their district and looking at cohort schools, and they did it with building leaders to help to see where they could grow. We've also had it at a school level, grade level bands, be able to take that, or a department level, be able to take certain sections and take a look at that. We've also had at a department level team, they felt just 7 principles were a little bit overwhelming, but they picked 3 that where they knew they wanted to focus on. And they said having these individual items gave them a little more clarity on what to look for and some action planning there. We've also had family and community members that have been able to take this to their child's IEP meetings or inform their team and give them some more information, what they were looking for or asking for. Just some takeaways. We just want to emphasize strengths-based and taking an appreciative lens to celebrate strengths, what's working well within systems. This tool really supports an ongoing reflection and cycles of inquiry. We really want to disrupt and restructure those social processes that produce inequities in our systems. Again, there's no wrong way to use the tool. Take a look at it, see what resonates for you in your own context and how it can be useful, right? And you can go to the demonstration site's webpage. There's a QR code there, and that will share, each demonstration site shares artifacts that are related to each of the principles and practices that you can take a little bit of a look. So you say, okay, this is what it is. Now, what does it look like? Please explore those artifacts. Thank you very much.